The Paul Ross Full Set Breakfast on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
So, let's turn now to our top story for this hour, and it concerns, once again, the way we deal with, or often fail to deal with, mental health issues in the UK. Apparently, 1 in 4 of us will suffer from some kind of mental health issue at some point in our lives. Many regard work as a cause of stress and possible mental illness, and only 1 in 3 men with poor mental health blame, well, not only, in fact, 1 in 3 of us, if you're male, blame work for your mental health issues. We're joined now by Sophie Rawlings, Media Relations Manager at Mind, the mental health charity, and Matt Streuli, who I believe is living with depression, anxiety and other conditions. Good morning to you both, Sophie and Matt. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Matt, let's start with you, if we may. What exactly are your struggles, your challenges?
So I'm much better today, but a few years ago I was working an office job. I'd been with this very large multinational company for about 5 years. And because of the recession, staff were being laid off. I'm sure we're all used to that. And my workload steadily increased. And the pressure to hit targets and take one for the team was ever growing. And in the end, my depression went from something that was manageable to seriously unmanageable. And it actually resulted in I tried to take my own life. And when I went into the office with my sick note, I gave it to my senior manager, and he turned and looked at me and said, well, no one else has a problem.
I must say, Matt, what you're outlining sounds like something you might find maybe in 1917, not 2017. Because you were under intense pressure. You were handling something, I believe, in the region of, 100 phone calls a day?
Something like that, yeah. And then I had other work that was piling up on me that was never part of my original job description. But as you say, we all take one for the team. We're all trying to keep the business going in difficult, financial times. And in the end, I was just disposable. I was just stuck on sick leave. My pay was cut. And in the end, I sort of had to take a settlement because I have a mortgage to pay.
And let me ask you, was this a feeling that you got from throughout that company, or were you just unfortunate enough to work for an unthinking jerk?
I think it was that towards the start of my career with that company, there were lots of perks and lots of benefits and lots of things that happened when you reached targets, but they all disappeared when things got difficult, when the recession really took hold.
Right. And
I'll be honest, that was when how we care about our staff quickly fell out of the window and wasn't such a priority. It was all about profit. So for me, they were a loving company, and that was one of the reasons why I loved working there. And before I knew it, I was very ill, and it gradually happened over the course of 2 or 3 years.
And was there nobody, say, for example, in what we used to call personnel, they now call human resources or something, nobody you could talk to within the company? Nobody even pointed out to you as some kind of mental health safety net, if you like?
There wasn't anything like that. I did go to HR and I saw the company doctor. HR gave me a lovely little website to log into, which essentially was articles from Wikipedia. If anyone has a moment, go on Mind, because there's much better articles on their website. But that was what HR's response was to my cries for help. And it wasn't until I actually tried to take my own life that I realised how ill even I was. My friends and family could see it. Some of my colleagues could see it. But nobody had any power to do anything. And the company doctor made a list of recommendations about how to improve my mental health at work. And only 1 out of the 4 was ever followed.
And what kind of impact was that having on your home life, on relationships at the time, Matt?
I found it incredibly difficult. I would self-isolate. I would cut myself off my friends and family for days, weeks at a time. I was unable to go out, and I spent money like there was no tomorrow, even though I didn't have it, because I needed something, that sort of adrenaline rush to cheer me up that I was going to get something through the post. I'm in a much better situation today, but I've had to make a career choice that my health and having a lower paid job is more important than being potentially suicidal.
And I must say, I think, from the sound of you have made absolutely the right choice. And you're also somebody who, I suppose, and you said to me at the start of this, today I feel all right. So is it something you're aware of you're living with almost on a day-to-day basis?
It's something I have to keep track of. It's a bit like, I suppose, a diabetic keeping a track of their blood sugars. I need to keep an eye on myself, and some days I need to step back and, do you know what, this is a bit too much. And other days, I'm up for it. Let's go for it. And I'm full of this creative energy. That's part of my conditions as well. But it is.
So is that the kind of, it sounds like mood swings then almost?
It was. I was originally given a diagnosis of bipolar, and that's changed over time to what's called borderline personality disorder. And it all dates back to, in my teenage years, I was the son and a carer of an alcoholic mother who died when I was 13.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. But it's one of those things that I managed to keep on top of that. I managed to stay positive. I got my GCSEs, I got my A-levels, and I was coping. I was okay. And then when it came to the biting point at work, there wasn't the support that I needed, and there wasn't any care. I was a disposable person in the workforce. And actually, the research, I think, shows that it isn't just office workers. We've known for a while that junior doctors are in a similar situation. They aren't disposable. We need doctors, and yet they are being treated like that. And I think a lot of people will resonate with those words, that they feel disposable, that there is just someone waiting to come in and we can get rid of you, because what will happen?
I mean, what you're outlining to me seems to be almost like that film with Jack Lemmon and Al Pacino, Glengarry Glen Ross, when they're a bunch of salesmen, admittedly, but the guy goes in and says, OK, the top salesman gets a Cadillac, second salesman gets a canteen of cutlery, the rest of you will be fired. That there's that constant threat that somebody is behind you who will immediately jump into your shoes, and you're not even a human being, you're a dispensable adjunct to the firm.
I absolutely felt like I had to hit my targets, I had to hit my bones. And you're right, there was always someone circling the office making sure that I was at every moment working at 100% capacity. It wasn't do you want to grab a coffee? Let's see how you are. What can I do to support you? It's, this needs to be done, it needs to be done yesterday. Oh, and now you've got this job as well because that person's been made redundant. And as I say, I'm sure that will resonate with plenty of people.
Absolutely.
And I was just in an office job. I was just taking a few phone calls and doing a bit of admin work on orders. I wasn't doing anything massively critical in the grand scheme of the world. But
Matt, can I ask what you're doing now? What area of employment you're in now, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm a teaching assistant in a school. So
again, it's a job. It's a job with pressures, but I'd imagine different kinds of pressures.
Oh, absolutely. And as stressful as kids can be, they are hilarious, and they look after me, and I look after them. And it's a godsend. I work in a school full of women, so I'm continually being mothered. I can't help that. And it's a much different stress, but it's one that I can keep on top of. And if I say I need a day, everyone understands that. Everyone appreciates that. It's a much different environment to being in an office, and there's that phone ringing and those emails coming in.
I must say, all respect you, because, I mean, I think you're only, 27 years old? You have been through an incredible journey. I mean, a terrifying sounding journey.
Thank you. No, it's when I look back and I realise how much I've been through, it actually frightens me. But at the same time, I then sit here and I look at my bank balance and I go, oh, maybe if I didn't whinge about my mental health, or maybe if I didn't say or do anything, I could still be in that job. I could still be buying a new car every few years and going on lovely holidays, rather than, taking part-time jobs cleaning just to help pay the mortgage during the summer and things like that. But unfortunately, we live in a society at the moment where if companies don't look after your mental health, there's very little that happens about it. There's a threat of tribunals. I did go down that avenue, but I had to settle before the first hearing. I needed the payout, and I had bills to pay. Of
course. Listen, Matt, we really appreciate your frankness, and I'm delighted that you have come out of what sounds like a very long, dark tunnel indeed. And listening to that, and I'm so grateful to Matt there for his frankness, is Sophie Rawlings from the mental health charity Mind. Good morning, Sophie.
Good morning. And firstly, can I just say, Matt, thank you so much for being so open with, sharing your story, because I know...
What an astonishing man to have got to talk about it in that matter-of-fact way. And he was obviously living through... he attempted suicide at one point. And yet we learn that, as many as 1 in 3 men with poor mental health, and those are the ones who acknowledge they've got mental health issues and not just put it down to acceptable stress in that macho way sometimes, they blame their jobs.
Absolutely. I mean, our research shows that work is one of the key factors causing men poor mental health above problems outside of work. And it's concerning that so many men find themselves unable to speak to their bosses about the impact that work is having on their well-being, and even more worrying that they are then not asking to take the time off when they need it.
So if people listening to this now are thinking, what Matt has said, I may be on the start of that hideous downward journey myself. Some of the things he said have resonated with me. What advice would you have for those people who are, I've had times in my life when I've kind of not looked forward to going into work. I've never experienced anything like what Matt has experienced. But, there must be people now who are dreading getting out of bed and going to work. What should they do?
The most important thing that anybody can do if they feel like they're experiencing a mental health problem is to open up, whether that be with a family member or a friend or even your boss. I mean, our research shows that in the last few years, employers have come on leaps and bounds when it comes to tackling stress in the
that's what surprises me about this, because we seem to be so much more open to discussing mental illness and so much more aware of the problems. There have been television campaigns, some by Mind I've seen, to try and alert us to problems in the workplace, and talking to colleagues and saying, not saying, open-ended questions like, what's the problem? Don't say you are all right, aren't you? I remember that campaign very well, engaging people in conversation, but we don't seem to have moved forward.
Well, there's still a lot more to do, and employers do need to recognise the different approaches that they may need to adopt in how they address mental health in the workplace. I mean, our research shows that 3 in 4 line managers do feel confident in supporting a team member with a mental health problem. I mean, hearing Matt's story, that's obviously not always the case. But what we want to do is we're urging all employers from across all sectors and all industries to come to mind and work with us on our Workplace Wellbeing Index, which is all about recognising best practice and also figuring out where employers can improve.
Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning there. That was Sophie Rawlings there from the mental health charity Mind. And also we heard from Matt Streuli, an extraordinary story. A remarkable man. He dealt with depression. He was diagnosed as bipolar, borderline personality disorder, left his high-pressured and highly paid job and is now working and much happier as a teaching assistant. It's 7:19. It's Talk Radio. Weather, travel and news headlines on the way right after this.
Talk Radio. Digital debate for the UK.
Talk Radio.
We'll get you talking.